Hello, everybody. Welcome to Most Wanted Topics. I'm your host, Kevin, and we're broadcasting to you from our store, Most Wanted Comics in beautiful Bloomington, Minnesota. It is October, our Halloween special, our final edition for the month of October. Can't wait to get rid of October, getting ready to get into the holiday season. I love it. And wow, Atomic Tommy, you're in costume for this episode. Unbelievable.
Yep.
You're donning the mask. You're donning the mask of Magneto. What's up with that?
Brought the helmet today. I figured just to get in the spirit, Tuesday's rapidly approaching, October 31st, and I gotta be ready for it.
You're always on to the task. And ladies, this guy is single. I gotta tell you, this guy is single. Wearing a mask like that, you can't help but draw dates. I'm telling you, it's the way to go. Magneto's a chick magnet.
Yeah, this hasn't really worked in the past, but maybe something will change.
Okay, good luck with that. So we have a great show coming up for you today. Larry the Wizard will be in here in a little bit, and we're going to talk horror comics and maybe a little sci-fi mixed in there. But this is the time of year we like to discuss the popularity of horror books. Still stay strong today, but go all the way back to the 50s. So we're going to talk about the history of horror books, and I'm sure Larry will have some fun show and tell for us again. So with that, let's get on to Atomic Tommy's takes here and his titles, and let's talk about what came out.
Yeah. So this week was a light week for me. The only two titles that I read on a consistent basis that came out were Flash and Void Rivals. I've talked about those titles in the past. I've said I really don't have anything new to say about them at this point. So I think I picked a couple of books that came out last week that I think are worth mentioning. The first one is Marvel Zombies Black, White, and Blood. This book was awesome. Did you get a chance to read it?
I have not got a chance to read that.
Well, you
book
definitely should pick up the copy. It is phenomenal. What is really good about this book is the art. In any zombie book, Marvel has done many Marvel Zombies books. Even in DC, they've had their Deceased, which we mentioned last week. What really drives that narrative home, what really brings it to that next level is the art. If the art sucks, the book sucks, plain and simple. And in this book, the art, thankfully, does not suck. The art is actually really good here. It combines that black and white and the color to give that perfect eerie feeling. It's detailed, but not so overcrowded that you can't tell what's going on. And
combine some old school with some modern. Okay,
it's really good. The art is really good. It really drives it to that next level. And special mention here, pointing it out, as with all Black, White, and Blood comics, this does follow the mini-issue formula where there will be 3 mini-stories in one issue. One of those stories is written by a local Minnesota writer, Ashley Allen. She's pretty new, but it's always nice to see some local talent representing in the big leagues.
It is. Yeah, we've talked about this in past podcasts. Minnesota is so blessed. I mean, the people here are so spoiled by how many creators live in the state. Unbelievable. Between Gleason and Tom and Dan Jurgens, and you have legends, Doug Mankey, the list goes on. And now we got, was it Ashley, her name? Yep. Now we got her to add to the mix. We got to get her to the store.
We do.
We got to get her to Most Wanted Comics and sign some books for us.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness, we're behind the 8 ball here. Magneto, we got to get going on this.
We are behind the 8 ball.
Why has she not been in our store yet?
I don't know. Don't look at me.
Oh, man.
I don't make the phone
calls.
Poor
marketing by the owner. We got to get Kent in here to talk about this. And we're going to have to get the icon Ken here to talk about this. But no, what else do we have on hand?
The next book I wanted to mention, I brought it up quickly last week, but that's Alan Scott, Green Lantern #1. This book let me down in a big way. This book, I just wasn't impressed with it. The art was not very good. It was trying to reminisce, be sort of like an older Silver Age, Golden Age mix kind of a look, but modernized, and it really just doesn't work. If you want something like that, you'll have to go read Birds of Prey. That run is doing a really good job of taking that Silver Age older look and bringing it into the modern age. It very clearly knows what style it wants to adapt, and it does a really good job of it. This does not do that. The art is very disappointing here. The action in the book, there's not really a lot of action. It's a little bit slower. I'm not a huge Alan Scott fan, so if this book has to really rope me in to want me to keep reading the character, and it really doesn't do that. It's really slow. There's not a lot of action. It was a little disappointing. I gotta
So for
be
the
honest.
creative team of Green Lantern, you can reach Atomic Tommy at a P.O. Box 4027.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll want to talk to you about that.
Maybe. I don't know. It's just, I think art in general in DC is really taken a turn for the worst. And I'm gonna take off this helmet now because it's bothering me immensely.
Hey, you did your Halloween. I did your Halloween stint.
I did the bit. All right. I think in general, art in DC has gone downhill a lot. There's just a lot of style issues and a lot of quality issues, and it's just getting old, you know.
All right. Well, let's not be a negative Nelly here. This is our Halloween episode. let's look forward to what's coming out here starting November here.
Yeah, November next week is a big week for Marvel. Spider-Boy #1 comes out next week. I think that's going to be a really big title given the surprising spike of popularity that Spider-Man #7 had, which was the first appearance of Spider-Boy that came out earlier this year. We already have a couple people in the store requesting copies, so I think that's going to be a good one to check out. Another one that comes out that I think is going to be also really big, Ultimate Universe #1. Jonathan Hickman was building up to this revival of the Ultimate Universe in his Ultimate Invasion 4-part miniseries, and that culminates here in Ultimate Universe #1 that comes out this week. Check it out. I think it'll be good.
All right, we heard it here, so make sure you stop by Most Wanted Comics on Wednesday to pick up the new titles. And you know what? We have a lot of fun stuff coming up in November. I'm going to give you a little hint. We are going to be doing some fun drives for the community here in Bloomington and the state for the month of November, December. So we're going to get back to stuff, a long box campaign. We're going to do our toy drive for Christmas. Gosh, I love doing it. It makes me so happy. We're getting out of the horror, getting out of October, and we're getting into the holidays, and I love it. Thanksgiving, football and turkey, and then Christmas, Santa Claus and presents.
Yep.
And the birth of our Savior. Can't forget that. But let's get on here with Larry. Where Larry's going to come in and we're going to do some awesome show and tell and the history of horror. So we'll be right back with Larry. All right, with us again, of course, another segment with Larry the Wizard, Mr. Knowledge himself. Larry, welcome back to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I always appreciate coming in and talking with you guys. It's such a gas.
Oh yeah, well, and now this is like in your wheelhouse. We're gonna be talking some horror, some sci-fi, right before Halloween here, and I want to jump right into it. You know, I'm not as knowledgeable as you about horror comics, but I do know that the 50s was kind of the height of the horror era in comics, and it was kind of the wild west. You can kind of do what you want, and so. Larry, why don't you talk to us a little bit about why the 50s was like the golden age of comic horror?
Well, back in the 50s, the 40s had your Long John costumed heroes, and people were kind of getting tired and worn out by them, so the publishers tried something different, and they got into horror and science fiction. And, I mean, they went whole hog. Everybody remembers EC. There's a lot of small publishers that weren't known that had some great alarming stuff also. But, I mean, anything went. I remember there was one situation in an EC comic where they had the entrails of one of the baseball players making up the borderlines of the baseball diamond.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, there was guillotines, there was Iron Maidens, there was just
beheadings and torture.
And, there was just all kinds of weird, bizarre stuff, and
no holds barred on the art, right? You could show whatever you wanted to do. Yeah.
And the artists reveled in it. Jack Davis was great for doing stuff like that. He could really bring horror to a pinnacle. And Wallace Wood was good, but I always preferred him in his science fiction stories because he was so good at bringing the unknown, the unreal to a head.
What was your go-to back then in the film? Was it like the Tales from the Crypt from EC, or was it different titles? What did you have out there in No Man's Land where you're
back
from?
In the plains, they didn't have a whole lot, unfortunately. And I think the only drugstore in town that I made my destination, was selective. I think he had a tendency of pre-selecting what he was,
Oh, sure. What's
was going to
appropriate
put
to
out.
Okay.
So it was pretty sanitized by that time. It wasn't until I got old enough that I read the ads in the back of a comic, and Robert Bell was one of them. You could send away for comics and so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, I found out about things, and I had fanzines, and I subscribed, and I got the EC Tales of Horror, Tales from the Crypt in the hardcover version.
Oh, okay.
And it opened up a whole new realm of what was out there. And so I started expanding dramatically.
Yeah, well, okay. And then you started expanding, but what happened? What happened with like censorship? What happened to the horror? Like, it kind of got tampered down.
Oh, it got tampered down big time. Well, as you know, the Comics Code Authority after the congressional hearings was self-censorship. So they had a staff that would go through and review the art, and no, we can't have him touching her bosom. No, we can't have him holding a knife under her. And they would self-censor everything and just say how far it could go. So a lot of things just changed.
Was that in the 60s then, or was it late 50s?
It was the late tail end of the 50s.
Okay.
And then going into the 60s. And I think it was one of the reasons that sparked some of the birth of the superhero renewal, because, they couldn't rely on ghastly stories or something horrific, so they had to have something fantastic. Plus, it was good timing. We had the space race, and, things were popping all over. And
yeah, that's the other thing with the sci-fi. You had the alien take, too. You didn't just have ghouls and ghosts and vampires. You had what's out there with space exploration. The imagination was unlimited. You could have whatever alien you made of that would come down to Earth and suck your brains out.
yes,
There you go.
with a straw.
With a straw. There was also what kind of comic? What was the one that you were talking about when we were off the air? It was with butterfly ears or something.
That was a Strange Adventures.
Strange Adventure. Okay.
From DC, and it always stood out in my mind because it was such a juxtaposition. Because here it had these giant yellow aliens with kind of like bug eyes, faceted, and ears that looked like butterfly wings, and they were chasing humans with nets, capturing them like they were
reverse butterfly catching.
Right,
right.
It was just so bizarre.
Cool. Well, Larry, let's get into some show and tell. I know the fans love to see what you bring us every time you come in. So let's see what kind of horror books you brought for show and tell, and talk about them a little bit.
Well, first off, we were talking about the 50s and how things are unlimited. So here's a pretty good example. We got somebody in an electric chair, and it just wasn't the type of thing you'd normally see in Comics Code Authority. Well, as we got into the 80s and 90s, and more likely the 2000s, things really changed.
Sure, yeah.
And they always had some interesting, bizarre takes on things that would catch you, like a guy being almost in an aquarium by some kind of sea creature. And then DC had Star-Spangled Stories.
Oh, yeah, the war stories.
Right. And what better combination for a young kid than to have a war story populated with dinosaurs? And every issue of this particular war comic by DC had dinosaurs. Whether it was pterodactyls or tyrannosaurus or triceratops, it was to die for.
So we're going to fight Nazis, Japanese, and then a pterodactyl.
Yep.
Okay, I got you. Had to be a fun read, though, when you're little.
Oh, loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Loved it. This goes back to the earlier Atlas, where in the 50s they had mystery. It wasn't really gore, but it was kind of like suspenseful type stuff.
Sure. Mystery tales from the 50s.
And one of my go-to ones was DC's Strange Adventures, because they always had good sci-fi stories. Otto Binder, I believe, was one of the people that did a lot of contribution, and he was a sci-fi writer also. And, you could never go wrong with the early ECs. I mean,
EC was the creme de la creme. Though.
Yeah, there was always something to pique your imagination. And the mid-50s, Marvel didn't try to capitalize on gore as much as mystery. So you'd have things like people sinking into the ground or disappearing, or here we have a lady just, disappearing, coming out of a building half and half.
Some imagination suspense.
Yes. And, of course, as time went on, things progressed. And, you get into the 60s, and this was pretty much superhero-orientated. Mid to late 70s, they started coming out with some of the horror stuff. Bernie Wrightson was...
You have a couple of horror magazines from the 70s under the hat there. Under your hat.
Oh, under the hat.
Under
yes.
the hat. You see, brought those in. By the way, as Larry's pulling these 70s books out, we do carry them in Most Wanted Comics. So make sure that, we're not just talking about horror books. We also have a nice selection in our store right now. Larry can attest to that, that we have a very, very good selection of horror comics. So if you like horror comics, Most Wanted Comics, you should check us out. And also make sure you like this and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Larry, keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
Make sure you check your bank account, because you can really stock up and bring a wheelbarrow.
That's
They've
right.
got some likable stuff.
Thanks. Yeah. What else do you have for us, Larry?
Oh,
I know Disney's still your favorite. You got a couple other books there. Did you bring a Disney book with us? I wonder if you got a Disney stuck.
Well, I've got a Disney one that is for the season.
It wouldn't be Larry without a Disney comic, people.
Yep. And, Huey, Dewey, and Louie going trick-or-treating, hooking up with a witch that helps them overcome Donald Duck, who's being a real Scrooge. And, it's just fun stuff. And Mickey and Minnie, hosting a Halloween party that gets out of control, and Goofy going totally bonkers and scared out of his wits.
We'll have to make sure when we get to Christmas time, too, we're going to talk about the Disney Christmas stuff, because Disney does a great job putting out all the holidays.
There was a time when, I'll put something up just so that we're not talking blank. There was a time, and I was going through my sarcophagus the other day, and they had comics for Halloween, spring break, back to school, Even ones for Thanksgiving, and they were great,
Yeah.
Woody Woodpecker and his, Chili Willy. And
yeah, we were talking about that with the funny books. And not only did they have the seasons covered, they also had the activities in them, too, that you could do. So.
And it was interesting, because back then, for 25 cents, you got 96 pages. You got crossword puzzles. You got activities where it showed you how to cut something out of a piece of paper, use soda straws, and make a flying bat or whatever,
Yeah.
It was always...
And seasonal appropriate stories.
Yes.
That was cool. That's cool. All right, well, back to horror one more time. What would you put up here?
I put up there Basil Wolverton. He is one of the lesser-known artists, but he is fantastic for the work that he does. And his style is so unique, and I really, really enjoy it. And he can do some pretty horrifying characters. And I just think he doesn't get enough credit or exposure. So I always have to mention or bring him up and tell people to check out Basil Wolverton, whether on Google or otherwise.
All right, fantastic fable. Well, we got time for one more, Larry. Make it count. Show us what else you brought there. Oh, UFO World, Death Rattle.
Death Rattle was one put out by Kitchen Sink, and it was nice because it had the flavor of old-time 50s horror. And
Nice.
but with new artists and new stories, and it, kept itself within limits, but it was way beyond any of the other horror comics that were out at the time.
Cool. Larry, as always, you're a wealth of knowledge, and I know the fans appreciate you talking about this with us and giving a little history lesson. I know I learned a few things today. I know they learned a few things today, and you're just your knowledge and just your accumulation of an ultimate collection is just fantastic. So I appreciate coming in before Halloween and sharing with us. Now, what can the kids expect to get if they come to your door trick or treat? I know you're a big Halloween fan, so.
Well, they'll obviously have some candy, and they'll probably have a chance to get a comic book.
Oh yeah.
Until they run out, because once the word gets out, I get flooded, and I even
Larry's handing out comic books, everybody.
And I've even had some adults come up and say, "Can I have one of those?"
Yeah. Here in Bloomington, I used to go to Herbeck's house to get the autograph when you go trick or treat and get a card. But now I'm in Bloomington. You go to Larry's house, you get a candy and a comic to go with it. So that's awesome. Larry, you do great things for the community. I know the kids love it, and I'm not going to give you his address, but if you're lucky enough to go to Larry's house trick or treating, you're going to get candy and a comic book. So, Larry, have a happy Halloween, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay, boo-hoo to you too.
Have a good one, Larry.
Yeah, thank you so much. My pleasure.
All right, wasn't that a great take for Larry? Oh, geez, you're wearing the mask again on the Magneto helmet. Pop back on, everybody. Again, ladies, this guy is single, and he's ready to mingle.
Had to end it in costume.
So you're going to go to Larry's house and trick or treat and get some candy and a comic book?
It's been a few years, but I might have to bring
Bust
it
out
back.
the pillow sack.
Yep.
Get a candy and a comic. No, that's awesome that Larry comes. And it's great that he gives out candy and comics to kids. It's good to see people still do that. Hey, you guys, everyone out there, you have a safe and happy Halloween. Stay warm. And we'll catch you next week and tell you what's going on with the store through the holiday season. So everybody have a great and safe Halloween, everybody. Have a good one.